I think straight away we can change to a politics of service.
When was the last time you embarrassed your kids? Do you remember?
Oh, probably yesterday. People have lost hope and trust that politics can be different. Went to Taylor Swift.
Yeah. How was
with
that?
the children. It was amazing. I learned that my 13-and-a-half-year-old girl knows every word of every song of every album.
Just a few days now left to go. I mean, it's Friday morning, let's imagine that you have won like the polls are predicting. What's the first thing you do when you step into number 10 with your family? Have you allowed yourself to think about it much?
Not much, because we've still got a number of days to go. And the votes have to be earned, and we do that respectfully, knowing that we will only win if we persuade people that if they want change, they have to vote for it. And that's something which we must continue to make clearer as we go into the last few days and to 10 o'clock on Thursday. What I can promise is this, that if we were to form a government and to serve our country, then we will start straight away on the change that is necessary. The first steps that we've got to get the hospital appointments we desperately need, to get the teachers we need, the police officers we need, but also to bring about something really important, which is a mindset change. I want to return politics to the politics of service, where you're serving your country. I think in the last 14 years, there's been too much self-entitlement. You've seen that with the Gambling Commission nonsense in this election. You saw it with breaking COVID rules and the COVID contracts, the PPE contracts. All of that has to end. We need to turn the page on that and return politics to service. That mindset change will happen from day one if we have a Labour government.
So yeah, you speak about that change. What would you say is the very first thing you want to do to change that feeling in this country, and how long is that going to take?
I think straight away we can change to a politics of service. That is about leadership, it's about the standards you expect of your team, and it's about saying to the country, politics is about service, it is about serving the country, and that's why under our changed Labour Party, we've said repeatedly country first, party second. So that's how we've campaigned into this election. And if we are privileged to come in to serve the country, we'll serve as changed Labour. So always, every decision made on the basis country first, party second.
You mentioned trust to do with the Conservatives, but for you as well, I mean, you did stand there and say that Jeremy Corbyn wasn't a threat to the British Jewish community. Did you think at the time he was a good man? And then do you worry about trust in you, given that you were obviously thinking one thing during that election and then saying another?
Look, I campaigned for the Labour Party last election. I wanted Labour MPs returned. I didn't think we'd win that election, but I wanted to make sure as many of my colleagues were returned as possible. You know, really good colleagues like Yvette Cooper, Bridget Phillipson, and I'm glad that we did and that we had them there. But I'm very happy to be judged on the change I brought about in the Labour Party. I said we needed to change. I said after we lost so badly, you don't look at the electorate and say, what were you doing? You changed the party. And that's been my mission for 4.5 years now. And we do go into this election as a changed Labour Party. What we're now seeking is the opportunity to pick the country up, put it back on its feet, and carry out change that I think our country desperately needs now.
And our listeners are often undecided voters. Do you think some apathy comes from hearing one thing from politicians and them necessarily not following through, not doing what they've said they're going to do? And are you promising that you won't do that? Do you think people like Nigel Farage succeed because he does make big promises and speak quite plainly?
I think you touched on something that's really important in this election, which is, I think after the last 14 years, but particularly with things like the COVID rules being broken, the PPE, as I said, the gambling, people have lost hope and trust that politics can be different. That's why it's so important we do that reset straight away and make clear that that's all now in the past and we govern in a different way. Now, we'll be judged by deeds, not words, I accept that. But that was the same when I set out about changing the Labour Party. People were only going to judge me by what I actually did, not what I said. But I've now changed the Labour Party and put it in a position where we say always country first, party second.
And you say you need to change the NHS. Tell us, how long was it that you had to wait last time you booked a GP appointment?
Oh, I can't remember. It was probably for one of our children. But I had my knee, I damaged my knee playing football inevitably, and had to have a meniscus operation, and I waited my turn in the queue, which was quite a long time, and meant I couldn't play in the interim, so it was a painful time as well. But so many people across the country now, nearly 8 million are on the waiting list. That's discomfort, that's pain. And for some people, it means they can't go to work when they'd like to go to work.
So what's your message to them today?
That we will, day one, sleeves rolled up, we will start on the necessary operations, 40,000 a week extra as soon as we can get that set up. That's 2 million a year to bring those waiting lists down. The last Labour government got the waiting list down. We've done it before and we'll do it again, and we will start on this straight away, and that's a change worth having.
And I want to ask you about violence against women and girls, because this comes up again and again when we ask our listeners what they're worried about. Many women very, very concerned about this. I mean, does your wife, for instance, feel safe when she goes out for a walk at night, a jog at night? And how are you going to resolve this when it's such a wide-ranging issue? So many women are feeling it. Yeah,
I've talked about this with Vic, my wife, and many others. I think very few women would say they feel safe when they go out at night. But actually, I was talking to some teenage girls, sort of 18, 19-year-olds, and they were saying they're even worried during the day going into their high street because of the behaviour there. That's why the commitment we've made to halve violence against women and girls, that is a massive commitment. It's really difficult. When I was Chief Prosecutor for 5 years, I worked on violence against women and girls with a number of other groups, and it's really hard work. It's absolutely important work. And we will have a laser-like focus on it because domestic violence, sexual violence, physical violence is prevalent, it's pernicious, it's underreported, it obviously massively impacts on lives. And I think that a government should commit to radically changing the situation, and that's what we've done. No party has ever committed this before. I'm really glad that we have, but I'm under no illusion about how difficult it's going to be.
And you have spoken before about your worries surrounding your family if you do win this week. So tell us, when was the last time you embarrassed your kids? Do you remember?
Oh, probably yesterday. It was my son's 16th birthday. So he's 16 just. My little girl is 13 and a half. These are impactful ages, and I don't want to get ahead of myself on the election, but I do worry about what it'll be like for them if we do come into government. We've protected them. We don't use their names in public. We don't do photos with them. They're able to walk to school and be their own selves. When they were born, Vic, my wife and I said, what do we most want for our children? We said happy and confident. Want to give them the space for that, but it's tricky. If they were under 5 years of age, it probably wouldn't impact them in the same way. If they were, 20, they're probably on their own feet, but 16 and 13 and a half is a very impactful age. So I don't worry about much in terms of the work we would need to do if we come into government. I do worry about my children. And we'll do everything we can to try and protect that space for them, but it'll be difficult.
Are there rules on screen time in your house?
Not anymore. My son is 6'1". There's only sort of bribery left, I'm afraid, in terms of...
it's gone out the window, yeah. I do want to ask you about Scotland, of course. We've got a massive audience in Scotland. So you recently told us that there will be no negotiations with the Scottish Government, even if the SNP did win a majority. Is that anti-democratic? What do you say to that argument?
No, we're not going to do a deal with the SNP into the election. I think that's blindingly obvious now, with the election being on Thursday, nor are we going to do a deal after the election. And that is because I want to ensure that we do get change in Scotland. I do actually understand completely why so many people in Scotland want change. I'm not surprised in many respects after the last 14 years. But that change needs to be within a changed United Kingdom, so a stronger Scotland, if you like, within a changed United Kingdom. That's why we're campaigning so hard in Scotland for Labour candidates to be returned who will sit, I hope, on the government benches. And so I'm saying to Scotland, if you want change, send a government to Westminster. The SNP, unfortunately, is saying send a message to Westminster. Well, that means sitting on the opposition benches, sort of shouting across the aisle. Actually, if it's Labour MPs, they can be bringing about change from Scotland from day one. And I think, that's so important for Scotland.
Yeah, no, I've been told to ask you, what is your favourite thing about Scotland, and have you had any Scottish delicacies like brew, like deep fried Mars
Mars bars?
Yeah.
No, well I haven't. I was doing a press conference with Anas, our Scottish leader. This was last year, and there was a spread of food, including the deep fried Mars bar, and all the press, the media pack, was saying to me, "Oh, will you eat that on camera for us?"
Yeah.
So I haven't actually eaten one.
Not on camera.
I haven't eaten one at all, actually, I have to say. But the favourite thing is inevitably, the Highlands, the mountains. Vic and I did a holiday a few years ago. We came into Inverness and then came along.
Beautiful.
It was absolutely stunningly beautiful. Could have done without some of the midges, but
Yeah.
it was absolutely amazing.
Brutal. And then for Kiss, so some of our young listeners have sent in questions. This is a bit more quick fire. We know Rishi Sunak has revealed his Nando's order. What do you have, and what heats do you go for?
I go for, there's a halloumi wrap that they do in a sort of pita bread. So that's what I go for, and strong peri-peri sauce.
And I think I know the answer to this, but what was the last gig you went to?
Oh, it was Friday week ago when went to Taylor Swift.
Yeah. How was
with
that?
the children. It was amazing. I learned that my 13-and-a-half-year-old girl knows every word of every song of every album of Taylor Swift. I didn't know that before.
What was your favourite? What era did you go for?
The song, I'm not going to claim I've got every album and I know every word or anything like that, but obviously one of the songs is Change. This election is all about change, so as soon as I arrived at the concert, I was given a bracelet, as you do, with change on it, and then my teenage daughter taught me how you trade the bracelets, which she was doing all night long.
Absolutely. And just finally to round up, I mean, many young people going to the polls this year for the first time. So what's your message to young people overall? What are you going to do for young people?
Vote for your future. You have the right to put your fingerprints on your future. If you want things to change and get better, you have to vote, and you have to vote Labour, and we will work with you to ensure that the better future you want is actually delivered.
And very briefly before we round up, what's your favourite thing about Rishi Sunak? What do you think the most admirable quality is in your opponent?
I'd actually point to two things. On the day he was elected leader, Prime Minister, he phoned me to agree that we would work together on things like national security, and he didn't have to do that. And Craig McKinley, as you know, the second thing, came back into Parliament having had awful sepsis and having lost his arms and legs. It was a really moving moment. And I think Rishi Sunak had gone to visit him a number of times without making a great fuss about it. So I thought that was, I had a lot of respect for that.